All right. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Mind my casual attire this morning. Had a very late night, and that's actually going to play into our discussion a little bit today. Thank you for voting. I posted a new poll since the other one expired, so you can vote on which of the elements of living you would like to keep learning about. Please select as many of them as of interest of you. There's no limit. We're going to at least continue these discussions. As if you continue liking these discussions, we'll continue them at least through the month of September and then go from there. There are some other kind of topics and tools I'd like to also share because there's so many. But I've been very much enjoying this discussion. And if you're here today, please go ahead and tell me that you're here. Say hi. We are talking about the element of living, shuffling the cards. And that was the top vote in our poll. Funny enough, it's interesting that y'all picked this one because in the last week, it's been showing up a lot. The last 1 or 2 weeks, yeah, a lot in the expansive energies groups. So we've been doing some conscious card reading for everyone in the group. Sometimes we can throw an individual card for each person. Sometimes we're doing it about the different areas of everyone's lives and what's going on. Hi, Agnes. Bonjour. Coucou. From France. And one of the things that we're doing in the expansive energies group is, as we're playing around with all the different modalities, we go from Tantra to shamanism to living and dying body process to gosh, so many different things. We had Reiki, we have card reading. We'll just skip around. Sometimes we're combining different ones so we can see which ones actually work together and which ones don't. That's part of the energy of the shuffling of the cards too, is like, what are the things that can come together easily and get integrated easily and actually with that expands and creates more for everybody, and which are the things that you try to kind of put the cards together, you try to bring them together, and it's like it goes, when they like in those when you try to shuffle the cards and it kind of explodes everywhere and you're like, what just happened? Doesn't really work. You can't really play the game and have the adventure of living when your cards are all over the place. And part of what the cards are and shuffling the cards is pieces of you, aspects of you, your gifts and awareness, your tools. You're like, I don't even remember what tool to use right now. Wait, what is it? Which ones are the ones that I have in my arsenal? This reminds you of that. So there's a lot of aspects of the shuffling of the cards. So I wrote down some notes, but first and foremost, it's the type of element of living, the type of archetype of living and dying that it is a power. So we have influencers. We've talked a little bit in general about them, but not any of the specific ones. The distractors, which we've talked about a little bit, but not any of the specific ones. We've talked about door openers. We've talked about discoverers, the outlaws, and then this is one of the powers. And with the powers, it's all about tapping into your power and having all of the energies in your arsenal. So not just being like, okay, I only use these kind of tools and I'm gonna let go of these other ones. They're not worthwhile anymore. They're not as valuable. Like you actually have to integrate all of that and have all of them. Thank you. I like this background too. And hi, Loredana. I thought it was appropriate. I actually have a couple of different decks here because I'm also gonna play with y'all a little bit and see if you perceive some differences in these decks. Part of the other aspect of shuffling the cards as a power is it uses sound. The sound, the movement together play into it. And when you are an ambassador of the living and dying body process, you learn how to actually be more aware of how sound and movement can facilitate different things in bodies, including your body. So it actually invites you to have an increased awareness of what's the movement that's going to create more for someone, including internal energetic movements like energy flows, but also like, oh, this kind of like, ugh, is it touching my toes right now? Is it going like this? What is it going to create more? Oh, that felt really good. um, and then the sound. So, you know, for some of you that already throw cards, that do conscious card reading, tarot card reading, whatever way you want to call it, I don't ever rely on the cards. And some of you who have seen me do Facebook Lives about my card reading, and there's a bunch in our Soaring Beyond Definition group, so you can go back into past videos and check them out as well. And there's some in our YouTube channel, but even just, I have a deck of cards right now, just this sound, I'm not even shuffling yet, just doing this, all of a sudden it goes and it kind of like clears out the cobwebs. For some of you, you clear the energies of anyone else that you've done readings for when you're shuffling the cards. You do it in different ways. Well, this is also a great way for you to clear out anything that's not true for you using that sound, like the cobwebs, the entities, the like confusion, the cloudiness of thinking when you have not really clear thinking. You can use sound in a lot of different ways, and the shuffling of cards element of living is just one of many of sounds that you can use to do that, but it reminds you of that. So when you're doing when you're activating and being the energy of the shuffling of cards element of living, you actually remembered, hey, I'm an acoustical being. I actually be this energy of and these sounds all the time. And what acoustics do I need to be with my body to be even more me? That's the purpose of the shuffling of the cards, to be more of you and to have all of you instead of just, okay, instead of the whole deck, I only get like, wait, like this amount of all of me, which is where a lot of us are functioning from. I definitely was functioning from just a little bit, just a couple of the cards, but then I would play games, and I would play games with my grandmother. You hear that? That sounds good stuff. I play games with with my siblings, right? And just sometimes in between, like I'll take a deck of cards with me to a meeting, or while I'm traveling, and just shuffle cards and not even end up playing at all. But the sound can be very meditative. So it invites us to look at, well, what are the sounds that bring us into a meditative state? And then how can we be those sounds and those acoustics with our body continually? All right, like instead of it just being once in a while. All right, so sound is huge here, huge. It also is, as you're shuffling, even before you throw a card or you're dealing out cards for a game, that can bring up some awarenesses in your world, like some reminders for you, not just about sound, but of other things you can do and choose. I'm just switching different decks so you can notice the sounds, and it can contribute to you. All of the different shuffling can contribute to you and your body as we're playing today. So yeah. So I don't rely on the cards themselves. If the awareness is already bubbling up to the surface, even before the card shows up, I'm willing to receive the messages. I'm willing to receive the awareness earlier. But some people are like, it's showing up and I'm going to shut it down. I'm going to cast it aside, and I'm going to wait for that card and really fixate on what the card shows and what it means in interpretation. And it could be that and more. You could be getting a message from those images and from your awareness. Okay, so here's another one. Ooh, different sounds, right? Which one do you like more, the first one or the second one? Which one's calling to you? And then there's the visuals, right, as well. Let me make sure I'm not missing any comments in the chat. Oh, thanks. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have to retype if that acoustic question. I'm glad you like it, because I don't even remember it right now. It's already gone. I've already cleared all this stuff. I have no brain cells right now. I'm running on like, oh gosh, like 3 hours of sleep perhaps. That's a whole other story. And part of what I'm going to talk about in a little bit. So, with the shuffling of cards, who has actually played cards? Like who plays Uno or Rummy or Gin Rummy? Gosh, Phase 10. There's so many different card games, even Cards Against Humanity. You got to shuffle them up, right? Joking Hazard, it's a card game, so many different ones. And part of what this does is it taps into all of those lives. You look at the images behind me, there's from 2 to king, right? Or ace to king. Well, in some lives we've been the ace. We've been the ace in the hole and with the winning card. And sometimes the ace can be the low card or the high card, right? We've sometimes been, a lot of times we've been most of the stuff in the middle in different like caste systems, in different societal status. And then sometimes we've been royalty. I'm missing the jack in this background. This image that I found does not have a jack. Isn't that interesting? But sometimes we've been kings, we've been queens, we've been royalty, we've been the jester and the jokers and things like that. And it actually helps us access past lives and access that information in a really easy, fun way, so we can have more of ourselves. So it intersects beautifully with the star seed that we talked about at the beginning, where that also invites us to travel and integrate different aspects of ourselves from other lives, past, present, and future. This intersects beautifully with that. It also intersects really well with when you're wanting to change status. So you're wanting to change things up. It's like, all right, I'd like all of the face cards to be up more, or I want more of the if it's a deck of cards and it's the just numbers, I want the higher cards, I want or maybe it's about the game golf, which I just learned how to play. It's a card game and it's all about having the lowest score is who wins, it's another discussion. There's so many implications with this, right? But you get the idea. It's like, where are you wanting to change things up in your life, and how about if you activate the energies of the shuffling of the cards to do that change up? So it works to counteract when you're being the revolving door energy that we talked about in the first door opener video. And if you haven't seen any of these videos I'm referring to, they're in our group. They're there waiting for you. If you're in my email list, you get the emails of the replay sent to you as well. Check your emails. But it's really about getting out of the being stuck of the revolving door. You're just spinning and spinning and spinning instead of using it to propel you forward, like that we talked about. Well, when you do the act, when you be and activate the shuffling of cards energies, it's another way to outcreate that revolving door energy where it's not creating more. And then you could actually have the revolving door in a great way, in a way that's going to create more for you. So for some of you who in that video were like, I have so much revolving door energy and I'm really stuck, maybe play around with the shuffling of the cards energy and the element of living. Okay. And then the other part too is the winning. Like when you feel like there's certain areas of your life where you're always the loser, where you're not really ever on top, like we talked about. It's an extension of what we've just been saying. Have you ever seen card games like Rounders? I love the game Rounders. I think about my friend Ron when I think of that movie. We used to watch it together. Or the movie Maverick with Mel Gibson, or the original one. I really like the Mel Gibson one. And they're playing card games, and then they'll have people cheat, and they'll have like an ace or certain card that's hiding in their sleeves. Well, this will be that. It's like your willingness to be aware of people who are trying to sneak and be shady with you. This helps with that, so you're not like putting blinders on with that. And then on top of it, it helps you actually be the energy of whatever is required, so that you can out manipulate that and maybe be a little bit sneaky. So take things like the ace card so that you can win, and there's so much with this, like the manipulation part with the shuffling of cards cannot really be underestimated. We can talk more about it, but just get that this is something that can really help you if you have manipulative people in your life. It can shuffle things around. It can have them so they are shuffled out, or you're willing to actually be totally aware of what they're doing, because you're having all of you. You're integrating all of those pieces of you, of everywhere that maybe you were that in the past, or where you haven't been willing to be aware of that. And then you're like, oh yeah, that's manipulation. They're lying to me. They're trying to scam me. Boom, boom, boom. Got it. Isn't that interesting that they're trying to scam me and try to lie to me? Ah, so cute. Not gonna work. Okay. Yeah. So that's a bit of the shuffling of the cards energy. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, cool. In the chat. The other piece with the shuffling the cards, and I'm going to shuffle one more. This is, I'm actually tell you which card deck it is after I shuffle them. But what's really cool is that it's all about things being in flux, things being changing all the time. And you being willing to actually move with those changes easily. And when you're actually have all of you, it's a lot easier to handle transitions and handle life changes. I was looking at this with one of my family and child coaching clients, and I was talking with this parent, and they were saying that they are really having a tricky time being willing to discuss death and dying with their child who's 5 years old. And we got to a point where I was telling them and inviting them to consider that when we're willing to have all of these elements of living, when we're willing to talk about living and life, death and dying, we're actually willing to have change and transition. And a lot of us, there's so much upheaval, there's so much change going on, and we're really resisting it. We want things to go back to normal. You will not hear me say that phrase ever. Like, I have no interest in going back to normal. I have no interest in going back to anything, be it how I used to be, how other people used to be. What's the next step forward that's actually going to create more? I don't want to just any willy-nilly step forward. I'd like it to be a conscious step and more consciousness out there. But I'm also willing to change anything and everything that is going to create more. And that's what the energy of the shuffling of cards is also about. There's a lot here. Can you tell? It's a big, powerful one. It's under the powers category, and it's one of the big ones. So thanks for voting for it and asking to talk about it. See, that was one. It's like, are we willing to actually have ease with change? Not so much. It really is clunky, that shuffle. And for those of you that are, okay, what would that look like for you? And consider like adding in all the different aspects of you that have been resisting change so far, and looking at, okay, I've been willing to have change in this area, but maybe not in this area. And what if you were willing to do whatever for anything? Move locations, meet new people, go to different places to meet those people, make different calls, take different actions for your business. But when I back to the point about the parent, that I finally got to the point where we got together to say, when we're willing to actually talk about death and dying with children, we actually start empowering them to have ease with change and transitions. So if you were someone that those conversations were avoided when you were a child, then maybe that's part of your challenges with change and transition now, where you're feeling like you can't take the next step, or you're in that anxiety paralysis, or maybe every time that there was change and transitions, there was trauma involved, there was violence involved, there was an energy that wasn't congruent with your body, wasn't nurturing to your body in some way. And then actually being willing to shuffle in that nurturing that you didn't get as a child, you can still add it in now. You can ask for it and add it in now, and then have that integrate into you and your being. And this deck of cards is just the game called Flux. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a fun one. But it's all about life is in flux, and oh, bless me. And there are no set rules. And what if we could actually roll with it? It's one of my favorite games, because it really is about life. It's all in flux. And I like it that way, but then I'm weird. All right. So have fun playing with the shuffling of the cards this week. Hope this discussion was a contribution to you. And if you have any questions, let me know. And then we'll go ahead and vote. If you haven't already done so, vote in the poll for all of the other ones you would like to hear about, any of the other elements of living you'd like to hear about. We did get the message. We are going to do um, a series of calls about the archetypes of living and dying and the elements of living so that you can actually learn how to activate them and use them to your disposal. We'll keep you posted on the information for that. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and comment in the chat as well. And then we're going to have our next awakening class. Thanks for adding in your awareness. Our next awakening class where people learn the living and dying body process, where the information about these elements of living are coming from, and they actually complement that body process beautifully. That'll be on November 13th. So if you'd like the information for that, go ahead and message me or anybody in the Fantastical Creature crew. And I look forward to checking in with you next week about the next element of living. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much, Ben.